Howdy, y'all. My name is Bryce, and I'm coming at you with some more Stardew Valley. I'm giggling because I had to unplug my controller there, and it was being all silly. All right, weather report. What do we got going on? It's going to rain all day tomorrow. That's good to know. See a glimmer with my scrying, or the spirits are mildly perturbed. All right, no luck today. No luck today. That's fine. That's fine. What day is it? It is Saturday the 20th. It's 6:10 a.m. We got some beans today. Nice. Oh, look at all those parsnips. Please give me some golds. Please give me some golds, y'all. Got ourselves a cauliflower. We got lots of planting to do today. Lots of planting to do. Oh boy, do we have a lot of planting to do. Come on, gold parsnip. Gold parsnips. Gold parsnips. Gold parsnips. Come on, gold parsnips. Give me gold parsnips. I want some parsnips that are gold parsnips. That was a weird song that I just sang there. So, hi guys, how's it going? You probably know... Oh, we got 4, and I think we have 1 more over here. Oh my gosh, this is like absolutely perfect. Oh, it's so good. So good. Awesome. So we've got our gold parsnips. We're going to hold on to those. We're going to move them all the way over here. We're holding on to cauliflowers for Maru. We'll sell this one. Might as well. We need to hold on to at least 1 green bean for the, what you call it? For the bins. And I think with that we're good. So let's sell all the rest of this stuff to make some monies. And we'll go buy some seeds for today. And if we can get enough money, we could upgrade something else. Because we need to go pick up our pick from the shop. And let's go see what we got in the way here of... We need 1 more. Oh, have we made the... How do we make this thing? The charcoal kiln. Wood and gold bars. We don't have any gold yet. Ah, I need some coal, and then I could make 1 more copper bar and we could upgrade a thing. But I guess that'll have to wait. Well, let's get to watering, and let's talk some psychology as we do. Hey, Herbert. You're Herbert, not Chester. Chester was in the last game. Look, you guys, there. There, you happy? So as many of y'all know, it's currently we're running through the 12 days of Stumpness, and so I actually just got done streaming, and it was fun because a lot of y'all actually were there and you were asking me psych questions down there in Twitch, so I thought that was a lot of fun. And I'm thinking that might be something that I start doing as maybe one of my streams. Well, we'll see going forward. Now that the term is mostly over, I have some paperwork and things to get done, but now that the term is mostly over, I should be able to kind of focus a little bit more on creative things, which is kind of my hope right now. There we go. And so hopefully I can come up with some cool, fun stream ideas and whatnot for you. So I'll let y'all know here, since I know all my psych people are here in the Stardew world, and I'll let y'all know if that kind of thing is going to start happening. So just a little knowledge for you. So let's talk about what y'all wanted to talk about. Oh, wrong way. In terms of psychology, bunch of great questions, many lingering over from previous comment sections. So we'll talk about that shortly. So let's see, what do we got at the top of the list here? Oh, this one. So this is one I think I've probably talked about in the past, but I thought it was worth mentioning again. Mostly, come on, because of it's a common misconception, or I think it stems from a common misconception. And so that's where I'm coming out with my response to this question. So this question is, what would it be like if you used 100% of your senses? I think that this is getting at what is often a common misunderstanding in psychology, because there's this common misperception that people have been spreading for ever as long as we've known that there was a brain. People have posited that you don't use all of it. That in fact you don't harness the potential of your brain. And then they point to examples of people with really excessive capacities and capabilities as being the example of, like, see, that person uses more. And that's not an accurate way of understanding that. All right, let's sell all our stuff off here. Parsnips, potatoes, parsnips, save those. Save 1 and 1. Okay, and we'll sell these green beans and that green bean and that cauliflower and those potatoes. And we got how much? Almost $4 grand. Not bad. We're on the 20th, which means we have like 8 days left. Let's do potatoes. We have tons of space that we can use for potatoes. It's got maybe like 30-ish. Let's say just above 2,000 for in case we somehow luck out and find a coal within the next little bit. Oh, you know what we could? But we're gonna spend money on that. Let's go back and plant these, and we'll move on from there. You do use 100% of your brain. Your brain is not something where it's like you tap into a small percentage of it, and And if only you could tap into the potential, you would be able to have, greater abilities or something like that. No, your brain, each area of your brain has its own specialized goals and tasks that it has to accomplish. And so, for example, the occipital lobe, the back of your brain, is tasked with ensuring that you can see, right? It processes all of your visual information. If you don't use, or I guess here, let's put it this way. Here's a good way of demonstrating my idea. If you don't use parts of your brain, or more, specifically, if you have a condition that causes you to be unable to utilize parts of your brain, those parts of your brain atrophy and die, or they get taken over by other closer areas of the brain. So let's back this up a little bit. Before I go into that topic, let's talk again, using 100% of your senses. So I think that this is the question or the idea behind this, stemming from that thing that I just talked about, that you do use all of your brain, but a lot of people spread this misinformation that you don't use all of your brain. Is this idea that if you were to use more of your senses, right, it's suggesting that you would have heightened senses. But no, your senses are as capable as you use them. So you can only see as far as your eyes can see and as far as you can currently tell that you can see. You can, oh, wait a minute. Do we not, oh, did we already finish that one? We must have already finished the spring crops bundle, because that's what that one was. So I must have brought one here. Cool. And then what else do we have? All right, well, we can sell all these then. Well, let's quickly check. And this is the foraging one, right? Exotic foraging, summer foraging, winter foraging, fall foraging, construction. Okay. So yeah, I think we're good. Okay, so the idea here is that like maybe you would have like heightened vision or heightened hearing or something like that, like Daredevil, right? And it's just not the case. Your senses are as good as they are. And that's as good as they are. So for example, like someone who goes blind, right? We hear about their hearing getting better, right? They have more heightened senses, more sharpened senses. Now, what that has to do with is not your senses themselves. It mostly has to do with, does Saturday count as a new week? Probably not. Sunday probably does. Yeah, already gave her gifts. Oh, Robin's back, which means that our silo is done, right? Yeah, we knew that. Our silo's done. Yeah. It's less about gaining more brain space or more brain power associated with that sense, okay? And more about your attention no longer focusing on your vision and devoting more of your attention towards your senses. Now, what is attention? Aha! That is the real question, right? Attention is essentially how much of your brain or what's coming in from your brain you can attend to pay attention to over, at any given time. That thing is, if you were to say, could I use, more than 100% of my brain, whatever, blah, 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 it would be, could I have more attention? But attention has a cost. It takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of brain power, and so generally we don't have much variation or excess in our attentive capacities. People with attention deficit disorder have an attention that is less controllable. It bounces around on its own, essentially. It gets distracted very easily. And so being able to attend more to something would allow you to focus better and perform better. With attention deficit, you're bouncing all over the place, attending to different things all the time. But that doesn't mean you're not using all of your brain. It doesn't mean you're not able to use all of your brain. It's just how much of it can you use at one time, right? How much of my vision can I pay attention to, and also my hearing can I pay attention to, and also my hands and everything else can I pay attention to at one time? The other thing that is important to consider is the concept of sensory overload. This is something that is extremely uncomfortable. It's something that people do not enjoy. Oh, hey, buddy, do you like clams? A gift, thanks! Haha, I knew it. I knew you'd like clams. Okay, we already watered our stuff. We already went back home. We could sell a couple things. We could go down to the mines real quick. We got our pick back. Nice copper pick. I could go down to the mines for just a little bit. Let's go do that. Why not? Let's talk to these two as well. Hi! Hi, Caroline. Is it just me, or does Abigail have an unhealthy interest in doom and gloom? Nah, she's fine. Hi. 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 Okay, so sensory overload. Sensory overload is when you have too many of your sensory neurons firing and not enough. And essentially, your brain doesn't have the capacity to stop that from affecting you, right? It's too much coming in. And that's a painful experience. Anybody, so for example, one's, sort of, it's not fully sensory overload, but it's an example of what sensory overload would be like, is this concept of, so like let's say you hear a loud noise, right? And your ears start ringing and it's painful and it hurts, right? It's because there's too much stimulation of your ears, right? Of your cochlea, the part of your inner ear that serves to process sound information, which is compression of air in space. Anyway, that's a tangent. So that's what sensory overload is. So if you were to have heightened senses, you would likely have a very tough time paying attention to those senses, dealing with those senses, probably a very painful experience, oftentimes experiencing too much of that. Now, would you get used to it? Possibly. Because we do know that people do eventually get used to changes in their senses. So, for example, someone who's blind and their hearing getting better. Like I said, it's mostly more about attention. But there is also a certain adaptive capability of the brain. And this is where things start to get interesting. And I think this gets back a little bit to what the question was about earlier. So remember how I said if your brain isn't using certain space, it'll start to atrophy and die, or it will start to be affected by other areas of the brain? It's that second part that's really interesting. Essentially, if you have empty brain space is no longer being used. Let's say you used to be able to see, and then now all of a sudden, you've become blind. Let's say you got in an accident or something, and you've lost your vision, okay? That brain space still exists. The parts of your brain near your occipital lobe, the parts of your brain associated with other senses, will start to take over that brain space. They'll start to essentially give themselves more power. So that's how you can gain better hearing, better sense of touch, better other senses when you've suddenly become blind. It's because your other areas of your brain are essentially taking over that brain space, because you don't want to waste neurons. Neurons are valuable. That energy is valuable. That space is valuable. Those cells are valuable. So your brain adapts. It's a really adaptive function to be able to adjust in that way. So our brains do that. And that's also what leads to, some of you may have heard of this before, phantom pain or phantom limb. This is when you lose a limb and then you have this experience of feeling that limb even though it's no longer there. Sometimes, or very often, it's a painful experience. And what it is it's the neurons in the area that used to process your sensory information from your limb. So let's say you lost your arm, right? The area of your brain that used to process that is now activating for something else. But the brain interprets that as, oh, I must be moving my hand, or my hand must be in pain, or whatever the experience may be. So it's kind of this misfiring. And that gets us into, we got coal, but we won't have enough time to go and turn the thing on. We can turn it tomorrow, it'll be fine. That gets us into another topic that was brought up and that I think is highly related and interesting here. We're talking about senses and perception today. It's great. I love it. And that is synesthesia. Okay? So what have we discussed so far? We've talked about attention and its role in perception, right? You have to be able to attend to your... You have to be able to attend to your senses in order to pay attention to them, right? And that costs energy. That takes resources. So you can only pay attention to so much, all right? We talked about how you do use all the areas of your brain, and that it's attention that is really the center of that. And we talked about how different areas of your brain can start to access other cells in order to turn them into new cells, to change what they do, right? So synesthesia is we're running out of space. Get rid of you, because the amethyst is going to be great for Abigail. Anything else we can just drop? We don't need stone. Stone we can get plenty of anywhere when we need it. And I guess I'll also, really quickly, let's eat that leek. Why not? Gimme, because we're going to want to bust all these suckers. Good amount of energy. Yeah, not bad. All right, so synesthesia. What is synesthesia? Wait, what is that little thing? Oh, it's a ring. I want it. Okay, got to drop some stuff. So synesthesia, we can drop wood. Cool. Small magnet ring. Awesome. Synesthesia is, I've said it like 10 times now, is a disorder or an experiential component of other disorders. Or, I mean, sometimes synesthesia mildly is just a common thing that humans have, which we'll also talk about in just a moment. But what that is it is when sensory information gets misinterpreted by the brain. Now, remember in previous episodes I've talked about, hey, we made it down the floor. In previous episodes I've talked about how, we're on the next level, which means we can find iron. How your senses, the way that they work is your brain at the point of the sense, like at your eye, for example, processes a whole bunch of information. And what it does is it turns that into electrochemical impulses. So for vision, for example, vision, the stimulus, the thing that causes us to see, right, you're all aware of, is light, right? Light is what we sense with our eyes. So our eyes have photoreceptor cells at the back of the eye that take light information when they're exposed to light, and they turn that, they essentially transform it into electrochemical impulses. So that's what your brain runs on. Your brain runs on electrochemical impulses. So that's essentially the language of the brain. Now, what's an electrochemical impulse? Essentially, your neurons, they receive chemicals at one end. They create an electrical impulse that sends a shock all the way down to the other end of the neuron. And at the end of that neuron, it spits out more chemicals for other neurons to pick up. It's this huge daisy chain all the way back through the brain until it finally reaches your conscious experience and starts to loop throughout your brain. Okay? What do we want to do with all this stuff before we move on for the day? I could sell that. I could sell that. I'll hold on to these. Let's just do a couple of these real quick. Synesthesia is when your brain crosses those wires. It can happen as a result of many different things. Like I said earlier, it could be a disorder that causes it. If you have extreme synesthesia, it could just be how your brain deals with certain types of information, because it's not necessarily detrimental to you to have this. But what's really interesting about it is level 2 combat, plus 5 HP, life elixir. Let's see how much money we get for today. Not a lot in there because we sold most of our stuff to Pierre. It's going to be raining today, so we don't have to water anything. That's nice. And let's make some more, what did I want to make? Let's process some more copper to start for the day. Quickly check our weather report and stuff. It's going to be beautiful and sunny tomorrow. Fortune teller. It's Sunday, so we should go and try and give a gift to Maru. Spirits are very happy today. And Queen of Sauce is teaching us radish salad. Cool. We don't know radishes yet. I think it's a winter or a fall. Okay, let's see what this letter's all about. It's been so long since I heard back from you, dear. Things are the same as ever back home. I miss you very much. Love, Mom. P.S. Found an envelope with some money Grandpa left for you. Hey, cool. Very nice. All right, are these ready? Don't know. Okay, no. The kale's not ready, so nothing's ready to pick up today. That's fine. We're just going to sit over here. We're going to process this copper, and we'll talk some more about synesthesia. So, synesthesia. So it's this crossing of wires, all right? So let's say the light information from my eyes gets transmitted to my brain. I've told you guys about this one structure in the past before, the thalamus, right? That's the area of your brain that kind of routes information throughout your brain. It's essentially the, I often refer to it as like the assistant of the brain, the secretary of the brain, if you will. And so it's tasked with making sure that all the information goes to the right parts of your brain properly, okay? Maybe you have an issue with your thalamus, or maybe you recently ingested some chemicals, perhaps some drugs. LSD, for example, is essentially forcing synesthesia. Like that's what that is doing to you. And so instead of the information going the right way, it goes the wrong way. So that light information that says, hey, look, there's light here, and it's got this type of information associated, it's got these kinds of colors, it's got this kind of stuff, blah, 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 that gets sent to the hearing part of your brain. What? So then the hearing part of your brain receives that information, and the hearing part of your brain doesn't ever look at what it's getting, right? It's just saying, oh, okay, so I got information from here. It says that activate over here, but because it's being processed in a different place, it takes on the form of a different sensory experience. So suddenly you, quote unquote, hear colors, all right? So the sensory information, or you're seeing sounds, okay? So seeing sounds would be like if I heard some information, right? I heard some air. compressed and rarefied in order to create sound waves. And what that did was it caused me to it cross the wires, and then it activates the part of my brain associated with vision. And instead of me being told, oh, this sounds like this, instead I'm being told, oh, this sound looks like this. And so it crosses those wires, it crosses that information. And as a result, you experience it as this sort of extrasensory, oh my gosh, I am seeing this sound, I am hearing this color, I am tasting this color. It's really a very interesting type of stimulus, or type of experience. I've never experienced it myself on whole. However, I do have what is a very common form of synesthesia that many people have, and you might have it yourself. And it's funny because we know why it exists. And this is associating color with letters and numbers, all right? It's sort of this, I forget what it's called, grapheme synesthesia, I believe. And so it's you're taking shapes, you're taking lexical shapes and structure, which are letters and numbers, and you're assigning to them a color value. So when you see the letter A, to you it's red or green. I'm trying, like in my head, I'm trying to think, what is A to me? A is green. B is blue. C is red. D is purple. E is yellow. F is orange. G is also purple. H is orange. I is yellow. J is, what is J? J is greenish? It's hard to say. I have to think about it because I have to be like, what color do I associate with that? But as you see, I did it really quickly because if you speak it quickly, you're essentially trying to free associate. You're trying to just say, like, what does my brain think first off? But anyway, that kind of synesthesia, that kind of experience where I associate colors with letters, it has its roots in something very simple. Turns out that there are entire generations of kids, roughly around my age and a little bit younger, or older rather, who were all exposed to one similar stimulus during a very important formative time in their lives. And that was these magnet letters by Fisher-Price, or Play School, one of the two. It turns out, apparently, that so many people were exposed to these things, and for such a long time, while they were learning their letters and learning their numbers, that they have carried these associations with them forward into their adult lives. And so they have a form of a mild grapheme synesthesia where they associate these things together. Because your brain, the way that it works, is there's this common phrase that we talk about. It's called neurons that fire together, wire together. If you experience the same things together on a repeated basis, you will come to associate those things together and ultimately assume that they are related and one and the same. You will process them one and the same. Oh, I just dropped a thing. Oh gosh, I'm okay. I'm okay. All right, let's upgrade our axe. Cool. And then before we end this the season, we'll make sure to upgrade our hoe as well, and we'll be at the next level of that. Honestly, I'd love to be able to get some iron and get up to the iron watering can before the end of the season. That would be amazing. So we should probably aim for that over the next couple days. Oh, I wanted to process our geodes as well, since we have a little bit of extra money. Let's do that. I'm still working on your... Oh, I should have done it before. I hate that that happens. I hate that that happens. He should still be able to process geodes while he's working on your stuff. Oh, well, we'll have to do that in the future. Let's go check the beach. Okay, so that's that grapheme synesthesia that many people experience. There are other people who have a much more severe form of synesthesia, and so they do have almost a debilitating form where it's very difficult for them. Oh, cool, new book. To experience their sensory information. All right, so we talked about synesthesia. It's really interesting stuff. There are some documentaries on it online. I would strongly suggest if you're interested in synesthesia, you can Google it, or go to YouTube and search for it on YouTube. There's a couple of videos there that I use when I talk about it in my class. Really interesting stuff. I find synesthesia to be fascinating. And ultimately, it shows a principle of the brain that is very important for people to understand, and it's this principle that we call constructionism. And so a lot of people think of the brain as something that is... How much is the pull? 1,800. Okay. A lot of people think of the brain as something that is a one-for-one experience, right? I look at the world, and the brain transmits that to me as it exists. But that's not how our brain works. Our brain deconstructs the information that it receives and then reconstructs it inside of our brain, okay? So it's essentially taking analog information and turning it into digital information, just like you do with a computer. That means that there's going to be some compression, there's going to be some expansion, there's going to be a whole lot of stuff happening that is going to alter the way that you process that information. Gosh, do you think we could find Mario outside anywhere? Like, I know she was up there at home. I wonder if I can go upstairs now. Maybe she'll be out now, and we could look inside Pierre's, and maybe Abigail will be around as well. So let's check the calendar. Okay. So yeah, so you construct your view of the world. You don't have a one-for-one perfect view of what the world is like. Whereas Abigail, it's like on rainy days, they all just hang out in their rooms, huh? Is that how this works? Oh, there she is. Cool. Let's give her an amethyst. That's her favorite. I seriously love this. You are the best, Bryce. Awesome. We're friends. We're friends. I really would like to find Mario if we can. Okay, so it's a constructionist situation. So very much you can compare what it is like for the what it's like to take analog information and transmit that into digital information. You can draw an analogy to how the brain processes its information. Okay, so we talked about the brain as being constructionist. We talked about synesthesia. We talked about your senses. We talked a little bit about attention. Aha! Okay, so one thing that we had several questions about was autism, Asperger's, savantism, all of these types of things. I'll try and summarize to the best of my ability in a short period of time what little I know about this stuff. Because, and I say what little I know. I have looked a lot into the topics of autism and these types of disorders, the autism spectrum disorders, because it is a very important thing for us to be studying right now, and we're realizing that because of the spectral view of it, that in fact it's sort of an extension of the natural variation amongst people rather than being a disorder. So essentially, it's not about do you have autism or Asperger's. It's more that those terms represent being at a far end of a normative spectrum of human brain space kind of allocation and attention. So I guess let's talk about savantism, and then maybe next time I can talk more about the social aspects of Asperger's. But the concept of savantism is being exceptionally gifted at one specific area, which is something we see a lot with autism spectrum disorders, is that individuals will have kind of a savant-like skill when it comes to, say, art or mathematics or, some area. And, oh, come on. Can I have this? Please, let me have it. Okay, cool. So the way that works, it's very interesting, is essentially what happens is early on in development, because autism occurs, the way that it occurs is it happens in utero. So while your mother is pregnant with you, that's when kind of the seeds of autism are planted. And what that does, or what happens, is your brain allocates essentially too much space to one area of the brain, like too many neurons, and then not enough for those that are kind of associated with the social aspects of interaction, okay? But remember how we talked about your brain has kind of a finite amount of space and it doesn't waste space. What that means is you do have more neurons focusing on those things that you have that skill in. Oh man, that was a tough fish. Did you see how fast it went? And so, I need to go up there and mess with that. And so what that means, oh gosh, are you kidding? What that means is that yes, you will, I didn't mean to press it again, is that you will have an exceptional ability at that one task in that one area, because you do have, essentially twice as much, 3 times as much, 4 times as much brain power dedicated to one thing. But that comes at a cost, right? Your brain can only have so much stuff. So you can't be a jack of all trades and a master of all trades, right? Or a master of some trades, right? Most people are what we would call a jack of all trades, master of none. Your brain operates in a sort of gross fashion, gross as in large overall, and thus you have kind of the normative skill set that most people have. If you have this exceptional brain space, essentially that has to come at the cost of another area of your brain, okay? Come on, give me that. Okay. And so that's where you get into the other issues associated with autism spectrum disorders. So for all the benefit you can get in one direction, it comes at a cost in another direction. But again, that's just an extension of the normal human variation in brain allocation, right? We all have slightly different brains. They all have slightly different amounts of, say, some of us have more in our social centers. We're really good at talking to people and interacting with people. Some of us have more brain space allocated in our back of our brains. We're more visually oriented, so artists often will have more brain space dedicated there and whatnot. And now, as we start to move towards the end of this conversation, let's take it one step further and bring it back to a statement that I said earlier, where I said neurons that fire together wire together, right? As you continue to do the same things over and over again, as you practice tasks, your brain gets better at them. All right, it gets better at anticipating what you need to do. It gets better at processing that information. I thought I heard it, but I guess I was wrong. And as a result, you will get better at those skills. You will allocate more space to those specific tasks. And so when it comes to art, for example, if you study art and color theory, you will, in fact, be able to perceive more colors than people who do not take art classes. Because you are an expert in this field, you're learning the small differences between them. And as you do that, your brain gets better at noticing those differences. Essentially, through the use of your attention towards vocabulary information, towards information that's communicated to you from others, you're able to improve this specific skill set by when your brain is looking at a color, you can also associate that with a name for that color. You can also associate that with some differences in that color. All the friggin' treasure we're getting is garbage. And so as a result, you can essentially allow yourself to perceive more colors. And so there's this really interesting, there's a podcast on this if you're really interested in color in particular. It's from NPR. It's called Radiolab, and it's on the topic of color. It's just called Color. And one thing that they talk about in that, is people who are called tetrachromats, all right? These are individuals who essentially have more hardware in their eyes. Most people have 3 cones, okay? And those cones are what allow you to process. There are 3 types of cones. You have millions of cones. And so you have those 3 types of cones, and that's what you use to detect color and to determine the differences in color. And they compare information to one another, and that's how you determine color. Some people have only 2 cones or 1 cone, 1 type of cone, and those people would be colorblind. Okay? So they're missing some information about color, and that's why they're colorblind. There's also, come on, there we go. On the flip side of that, tetrachromats are individuals who have 4 cones. They have extra hardware associated with processing visual stimuli, all right? It seems to be the case that for those people who are tetrachromats, that their ability to see more colors is limited by their language and by their use of those colors and how intensely they focus on color. It seems like, from what we've seen, it's a very hard area of research to actually conduct, because finding people with this, there are very few of them that we can even point out that actually exist. It's hard to test because of the huge effects of your lifetime, your experience, and your development. And so what we find is that for these tetrachromats, they don't seem to be that much more skilled at detecting color or differences than any artist would be, someone who's an expert in color. And in fact, we can't tell the difference. And sometimes the artists are better at telling the differences between color than these tetrachromats. So it seems like it's not about the ability that you have, or the organ, the eye, what's in the eye. It's more about your experience throughout your lifetime and how you associate that information in your brain, ultimately leading to you being able to perceive however many colors, however many sounds, however many things that you do. Oh boy, what an episode, man. We talked about a lot of stuff. My goodness. We got a whole bunch of these copper bars going on, so that'll be great so we can upgrade another thing going forward. We can actually just immediately, if we get enough money, we can immediately get our hoe going right after we go and pick up our, what did we turn in? Our axe? We caught a couple shads, which I actually think we needed, so that's cool. So let's pop those guys in here. These guys, we'll hold on to one just in case. I'm pretty sure we already got those guys. So let's sell some of this stuff. And then we're gonna be calling it quits for today. So hopefully what I talked about today made some sense. I know that I sometimes kind of ramble a bit and I kind of go on tangents, and so it can be hard to understand me. I apologize. It is just kind of, when you're doing it this way, when it's a free form discussion, it's a little bit harder to structure it than it is when I do a lecture, say, when I've got my slides and things, all my stuff I'm prepared for. But let's summarize really quickly. What did we talk about? We talked about do you use 100% of your senses? Yes. Do you use 100% of your brain? Yes. What would it be like if you had this greater amount of sensory experience? It would probably be a painful one, but you would adapt. Your brain does adapt. But in order to adapt, it would have to take over other brain space in order to do so. We talked about synesthesia and what that experience is like and what causes it. And we talked about... what else did we just talk about? We talked about a whole bunch of stuff is what we talked about. But ultimately, I guess, we talked about Asperger's and things like that. Ultimately, I think what is the important takeaway from this message is that your brain has a limited amount of space. It has a limited amount of stuff it can do with that space. And we have a limited amount of skill set to take advantage of that space, which is our attention. Right? And so anything that is going to make your brain different from someone else's is going to come with some benefits, and it's going to come at some costs, because everything takes space and your skull is only so big. And we can't have bigger skulls because it wouldn't be adaptive, because it would be very dangerous in the giving of childbirth for people. And that's a whole other thing we could talk about our brain size being limited by the size of our heads. All right, we leveled up our fishing. We got +1 fishing rod proficiency. We can craft crab pots, which would be great. If we can put those all around our place, we can actually start using our bait, so that would be good. Dish of the sea we can now make. And how much money did we come away with? A couple hundred. Not bad. Not a bad haul. All right, y'all. Well, that's what we're going to call it for this episode of Stardew Valley. Thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw, please be sure to give this video a like, a favorite, and subscribe to the channel. If you want to ask me some questions about psychology-related stuff, please do so down below. I've got tons of questions on this list here in front of me, but I always like to put more into it from the comments and whatnot. And if you had a question in a previous video and it hasn't been answered yet, feel free to re-comment that on there. I'm not going to get mad at you for putting the same comment on multiple videos when it has to do with these questions. And yeah, with all that, I will see y'all next time.